Chris?
Just looking at them.
Okay. So welcome, everybody. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So move.
Is there a second?
Let me look at it.
Okay.
Okay, second.
We aren't gonna, are we gonna have a closed session on this meeting?
No, well,
Because it's on the,
this is a Learning Center meeting.
right, but it says closed session.
Oh, do you have a closed session?
Says no.
No, we're not, right? Okay.
Okay. So all those in favor of adopting the agenda?
Aye.
Any public comments? Nope. Okay, approval of the consent. We don't have a consent agenda. Oh, the minutes. Approval of the minutes from the August 20th meeting. And we have not those here.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, then, our HEC opening action plan, Dr. Ledusky-Taylor.
Chair Siegel, President Grissom, members of the board. Wow, this is loud. This agenda item is in preparation to the January 2015 opening of the Higher Education Center building. As you're all aware, we had the great good fortune to finally start moving dirt at the construction site on January 15th. And in the information items, Henry is going to be giving you a project update of since we've mobilized or started mobilization on January 15th. And this action item is a presentation of all of the activities that need, or all the tasks that need to be accomplished prior to the January 2015 opening, and to ensure the ongoing successful operations of the Higher Education Center once we move from our on-campus pilot to the new facility. You have a hard copy of the action plan, and it is kind of in sequential and priority order, and the first two items really need to be happening simultaneously, that we need to develop the academic plan for the HEC building facility, which includes the SFCC. It should say, we've got some typos in here. This is the wrong version of this document, but we'll muddle along. But the SFCC Spring 2015 class schedule needs to be developed. We need to identify what general education courses we're going to be offering and work with the Santa Fe Public Schools, especially for the dual credit enrollment program that we're planning. And we also need to be working with our partner institutions to talk more about what degree programs they're planning on offering on site there, and also specifically classes. And all of that is going to be directly tied to the 5-year financial plan. And the most important first aspect of that 5-year financial plan is coming up with the FY15 operating budget. And that's going to be an interesting budget because the fall semester will still be doing the on-campus pilot of the program, and then for spring of 2015 we'll actually be operating in that building and have to account for whatever staffing there is there. Utilities costs, although it's such a green building that we're not going to have very many utility costs at all. And also, very importantly, related to the not only the operating budget and the financial plan, but we need to negotiate a new fee structure with our 4-year partner institutions. The current MOAs that we have with them are through move into the new HEC facility. The language of the MOAs also states that the year prior to opening or moving into that new facility, we will negotiate the new fee structure, which will be based on the real operating costs of the building. And as Brian Zimmer mentioned in the work session, we've already had President Grissom and Brian Zimmer, myself, have already had a preliminary meeting, and we're developing budget assumptions and that sort of thing. So we're well on our way to be having something for that March deadline when you'll be reviewing the preliminary budgets for the institution. And number 3, again, we need to revise those memorandum of agreements and essentially, renegotiate them and get them all signed, sealed, and delivered for the opening of the building. And related to everything above is the staffing plan. And in the on-campus pilot, we started out with a half-time director of the HEC, and I've been in the position since it was first created, and I was doing it on a half-time basis while the other half of my time was being a special assistant to the president. And we also had a half-time administrative assistant position. Last January, I was assigned the responsibility on a full-time basis to be director of the Higher Education Center. And since last fall, however, a year ago, fall, there's not been any administrative support to the director of the Higher Education Center. And so I've been pretty much operating on my own as a solo, and then as of October 1st, as you know, I retired, and so I'm currently serving in the director's position as a retiree on a 25% basis. And there is no administrative assistant staff at this time. Number 5, fundraising development plan. I'm working with Deborah Bolt and the SFCC Foundation Office to identify naming and sponsorship opportunities for the new building, and I actually just sent the initial list of opportunities, both internal and external, things like naming or sponsorship for the Collaborative Learning Center, the seminar rooms, the flex labs, courtyard, the interior courtyard, landscaping in the front and in the, well, all around the building. But we're trying to come up with dollar amounts for each of those and coming up with our shopping list, so to speak. And Deborah and I are having our first meeting with a potential corporate donor on Monday. And so that's going to be our trial run in doing this. And we're working with Henry and his staff to help identify what's a reasonable cost for the naming rights or the sponsorship rights. Articulation agreements. We need to finalize. We have about 6 IAIA articulation agreements that have not been completed yet. They're kind of half-baked in the sense that we have included the information about what degree program, associate degree programs, and courses students would take as the first 2 years of the transfer articulation to IAIA. And it is with IAIA right now, but we need to finalize those and formalize those, and also come up with the degree program checklist that we have in place currently, similar to what we have with New Mexico Highlands. We also have the New Mexico State University articulation agreement in engineering technology, and now that we're back from the break, I'm working with Monique Anair and Patricia Finn to finalize that and get it in writing someplace. We also need, it's an ongoing process to continually update the articulation agreements that are in place, because our degree program requirements change, their bachelor's degree program requirements change, and it's kind of a real interesting dance that you do to make sure that it's all current. And we also want to develop new articulation agreements, especially in preparation for moving into the new building. We'll have more space, we'll have more classroom space that we'll be able to utilize to expand the program offerings. We also need to do an updated community needs assessment, a formal one. And now that we have Yash and his staff on board, we'll probably be able to do that in-house. But that really needs to be done in conjunction in the development of the academic plan for the new facility. And we need to act on the Community Advisory Committee. And Linda, I know, Board Member Siegel and Board Member Abeta, you'll remember that the board originally approved a resolution establishing a community advisory committee as allowed under the Learning Center Act. And then we also brainstormed who we would want, what kind of representation we would want to have on that advisory committee. But we held off while we were doing the on-campus pilot, and then we held off even more as we went through the litigation process because we wanted to see where we were going to end up. But I think that we really need to make the appointments and have the community advisory committee in place to help us in the planning for moving into the new building. And then there are other things that kind of have to do with Henry and his team and site-related issues, but the city and the college have been talking about the city doing a land transfer through a lot line adjustment to give us the strip of land that we need for the north entrance to the HEC site. And currently we have a temporary road easement over that piece that gives us access to Alumni Drive, but that is only for the period of construction of the building, and so we need to finalize that. We also need to determine how the north entrance is going to be used. Currently, and to date in all of our planning, we were expecting that there could be entry and exit from the north entrance. And the Santa Fe University of Art and Design has asked for consideration of having that north entrance be emergency access only. And so we need to explore all the ramifications of doing that. And it also conceivably can have an impact on the design of the building and the parking lot and everything else as well. So that needs to happen pretty quickly. And then we need to explore more fully opportunities to partner with the Santa Fe University of Art and Design. We've had a series of conversations. Most recently, Chair Siegel, you and President Grissom met with Larry Hines, the president of SFUED. I just love saying that, SFUED. It just rolls off the tongue. Yes. But in previous conversations, we've explored the opportunity of jointly developing parking adjacent to the Higher Education Center site, shared use of their library facilities and food service facilities, and most recently, we've talked about partnering in terms of a road maintenance agreement, because if you've been out there recently, the roads are not in really great shape, and with the construction vehicles and everything, it's not going to get better. And then lastly, we need to have a move-in plan. I mean, just the logistics of physically doing the move, and you assume that's going to be really easy. Well, it really isn't all that easy, and it doesn't happen by itself. So it's a matter of mobilizing Henry's folks in the planning process, along with Chris De La Rosa and the OIT folks, and probably a million other people from within the college community. But it's certainly doable, but the sooner we start planning, the better off we're going to be. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but the purpose of this agenda item is to request that the board approve this direction in heading this action plan for preparing for the move into the new building.
Questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Tina, are we going to be using, after the planned move, are there going to be any rooms at the college because of access to certain classes and stuff that'll be taking HEC that'll be still here and not over there?
Yes. Chair Siegel and Board Member Abeta, yes, we don't plan on duplicating any of the facility, the specialized facilities that we have here. So it is possible, especially, for example, the engineering technology program with New Mexico State, where people would be taking their engineering courses here. And the same thing with any allied health programs. We would have regular lecture classes or online classes available through the HEC facility, but not, the laboratories and that sort of thing would be here at this campus.
My next question was, is the membership going to change on the advisory committee because it's been so long?
Well, the membership was never appointed. So what the board approved was establishing a community advisory committee for the Higher Education Center, and then we got to the point of identifying the types of representatives we wanted.
Do you have any names yet?
Yeah, well, yes, we had names, but nobody has been formally asked to serve on that committee.
Okay, cool, thank you. Thank you.
I have a question about the articulation agreements. As you were talking about the fact that degree requirements change, both here and at the sister institutions, are the advisors on campus the ones who keep track of that? Or do you have a special advisor assigned to the HEC programs?
Well, all of the advisors here and counselors are informed about the articulation agreements, and last fall semester we actually even completed degree plan checklists. So the articulation agreements themselves are the formal documents that get signed off by the world, but not very user-friendly from the students or advisors or faculty members' perspective. So we have put them into an easier format that are posted on the HEC website. And so there are regular meetings of the advisors and counselors on campus here, and so I've been attending those meetings on a fairly regular basis to provide those updates. But it is actually it's part of what I've been doing is keeping on top and updating on an annual basis. We do have an HEC steering committee which has representatives from all of the four-year partner institutions, and that's really the operational, day-to-day operational group. And so that's when we identify, okay, it's time to take a look at the degree plan changes or and see what we need to do.
And the students' contract is whatever catalog they started with.
That's correct. That's correct. And on a related note, all of our four-year partner institutions have agreed to accept SFCC's associate degree in its entirety as meeting the lower division requirements for their bachelor's degree programs. And so it's not a course-by-course articulation,
Right.
which is hugely important to our students.
That's very important. Thank you.
Kathy?
A quick question on the advisory committee. So who does the appointing of the committee members? Does that require board action?
Yes, that's exactly right. And again, where we got what action we took was the Learning Center District Board approved the formation of this advisory committee. I presented a recommended list of members in terms of different constituent groups in the community, like Santa Fe Public Schools or LANL or major employers, Native American constituents, Hispanic constituents, and then we opened it up to the board. We requested board input and added to that list. So we still have that brainstormed list, but no formal invitation to serve on the committee has gone out yet.
How large do you expect it to be?
I think we were looking at around, I think it was somewhere in the range of 15 to 20. If I remember correctly. I mean, we want broad representation, but we don't want to make it so unwieldy that it's not going to help us.
Would you provide us with copies of that name, especially for Kathy and I who weren't here then?
Sure, yeah, and again, it's organizational, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I don't remember if we meant if we developed goals for the advisory committee, because we really need to do that. We just don't want to have people on and they don't know what.
Right, and the Learning Center Act does have language. I mean, when it authorizes the formation of a community advisory committee, it kind of gives the general purpose statement, and then we need to refine that, and we also need to really link that to our strategic plan and.
Great.
So it sounds like that many of these things need to start happening now.
Right. How about yesterday?
Yeah. That though you have them you said you had them in the order of activity, in the order.
Well, kind of. It's more a priority order, and I also listed them to link them as well, as I said with the first two, the academic plan and the 5-year financial plan absolutely have to be linked. Right. And then from there, things kind of sequence out after that. But there has been action on this. It's just that we really need to ramp up the pace at this point in time, and there's much more detail that needs to be done. And the budget for that new facility is going to be entirely different from what we currently have for the on-campus pilot.
Right, and I think entirely different than any budget we had presented in the past.
Right, correct, and because it's going to be based on the real design of that building, what we know about the LEED certification and everything, and what kind of utilities savings we're going to be having.
Martha, something else?
I wondered if we have any plans to involve the sister institutions in the fundraising plan?
There has been some conversation about that, and there was general agreement, and this was like, a year and a half, 2 years ago, to do a joint fundraiser, and we were originally looking at fall of 2013 to do a joint fundraiser, but again, we got waylaid by the litigation, and but there was interest on the part of the partner institutions, and I've had preliminary discussions with Deborah Bolt from the foundation about making that happen.
Thank you.
And so we do have in our foundation our naming criteria.
Right, that's correct.
And so we're
That's
following
correct.
that, right.
Right, that's correct.
Okay. Randy, you wanted to say something?
Make a couple of comments, Madam Chair, members of the board. First of all, Deborah Bolt's going to give a presentation at the February board meeting, and part of that is going to be an update on what has happened between now and then on these naming possibilities. Also, just wanted to remind everybody that as we go into our budget process for the college as a whole, the HEC is part of that, and so we are looking. When you last saw 5-year projections for the finances, we were looking at a 15,000 square foot building because we were only going to open half of it. Well, now we're going to open the whole thing. Now the college is going to be using some pieces of it, so we're looking at all aspects of the budget, how we can cover things, but from our existing staff that we have here in the OIT budget, we're going to be able to do a lot of things remotely. Mm-hmm. We're going to be making use of the cloud and the internet. We're going to have a lot of cameras. So I think we have a better picture now because we know what the building is, and so we're going to be doing that as part of our process.
And do you have any update from our meeting with Safuad?
Safwad. I call it Safwad.
Safwad.
Anyway, I've had a couple of interactions with President Larry Hines from over there. We're going to be updating the MOA. We did talk about some non-compete arrangements with their existing programs, which I think we are open to considering. We are looking at doing a traffic study, a little bit more traffic study, potentially in addition to the one we already did, to address some of their concerns and, frankly, some of our concerns, because we know a little more now than we did when we did some of these things. So those should be coming up soon. And I just want to add it back onto the advisory committee. We'll get some information out to you soon on that, but at the next Higher Learning Center board meeting, hopefully maybe we can do a formal update on that and maybe even finalize some appointment. Yeah.
And that would be in March?
That would be
in every other month?
Yes.
It's quarterly.
No, it seems like with this all happening.
Yeah.
We should probably have it,
Right,
maybe
and
a brief meeting before every board meeting, just because we need
You may need to make a
an
decision.
update
Yeah.
and may need to decide on something.
and Chair Siegel, that's, it just, states in the board's bylaws that, kind of
Minimum, yeah.
quarterly, but we
Would
do have a lot
anyone
more to.
object to having a brief HEC meeting? It seems like we should.
That sounds like a good thing.
Yeah, okay. And then, okay, so we need a motion to approve this
Action plan as
action
presented.
plan.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have the construction report. We have a little hole there now or something?
No, we have a big mound of dirt. I just drove by today.
Did you?
Chairman Siegel, President, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity to allow us to present before you this evening. Yes, we do, and we're extremely excited. We're extremely excited about the project. First of all, I'd like to give recognition to the team. Decker, Parrott, Sabatini, our architects, McCarthy, our contractor, and of course all the Santa Fe Community College team. I'm extremely enthusiastic. It's such a quality and professional team. I'm really excited about this project. As you know, it's an extremely dynamic project. It started January 14th, 2014, and it's going to complete January 15th, 2015 with a construction manager at risk contract. So it's a very progressive contract and a very progressive schedule. So we're extremely excited and really looking forward to our progress. Just a background, the HEC is a 34,000 square foot, two-story facility. Actually, you have that, there's some,
Some slides?
are there some photos? This was a handout that you all should have.
Yes. we
Okay.
have that.
And then here's some action photos as we speak of the progress on the site. It's a 34,000 square foot, two-story facility on approximately 4 acres. There's 15 classrooms, collaborative learning labs, and 2 flexible instructional spaces. It's got a robust technology and Wi-Fi system thanks to our OIT director, our CIO, Chief Information Officer, Chris De La Rosa, has been extremely responsive and a great leader in this effort. It's a sustainable project with approximately 175 kilowatt photovoltaic array, which will provide approximately 80%, perhaps better, of the building's power. It's anticipated LEED Gold with the photovoltaic system, a majority contributor to that LEED Gold certification. And the cost is approximately $12 million. The 175 kilowatt photovoltaic system will have predominantly be located on the roof of the facility, but we'll have 6 panels located on the parking lot structure, and will provide both instructional and demonstrative purposes for the college and students. I'm going to get right into some of the some of the project specifics on the update. The design team completed the construction documents December 13th, 2013. The HEC building permit, which I would attribute to being a substantially fast process within CID, they actually turned that document around within 3 weeks and actually provided us our permit, which was phenomenal. Was issued by CID in January, and as you know, construction began January 15th, 2014. Consequently, we've met with the City Fire Marshal. We are required on a deferred submittal to provide the City Fire Marshal a review of our fire protection system. We met with the City Fire Marshal, and there was some discussion about jurisdiction between the State Fire Marshal and the City Fire Marshal with regards to the fire suppression system and the jurisdiction over the sprinkler system, which are separate issues. That was determined by Lisa Martinez, by the way, with the city, has been very helpful in this process. And it was determined by State Deputy Fire Marshal John Ludi that both agencies will actually review. And as I broke them up, the state will look at the fire protection system and the city will look at the fire sprinkler system.
What's the difference?
The fire protection system has to do with the control panels, where the location of the fire hydrants are, and access to the property. Where the sprinkler system has specifically to do with the GPM, the amount of water that can flow, and the location of the sprinklers within the building, and the type of control system that are utilized to set off those sprinkler systems. They're related but separate. The HEC address request was submitted to the city A plat and affidavit of ownership were included in the packet, and we anticipate an address here shortly. The subcontractor began the bidding process. It's an ongoing process, anticipated, and I'll cover this at the end here, the guaranteed maximum price, which we'll be presenting to you at a special meeting later in February, early in February. Surprisingly enough, at least most trades had 3 bids for review, which is a good turnout. These are the subcontractor bids. The electrical and roofing had as many as 5 bids. The elevator had 2 bids, Otis and ThyssenKrupp. And the bids came in approximately $65K over budget. That was last week, and as I mentioned, this is a very dynamic project. We've since had second submittals of these estimates from the contractors, and in fact, we're right about within budget now, so we're very pleased with that. And we'll be looking at some value engineering concepts within the next week to see if we can even better some of those costs. Our guaranteed maximum price will meet the budget requirements originally established by the board, and that's something I'm really pleased to announce. We anticipate having the opportunity to add alternatives towards the end of the project due to the team's diligence and our budget accountability. We are on schedule. The only cost risk we anticipate during earthwork, once that's completed, the project will be a smoother process. So far, we have not encountered any environmental issues. As a matter of fact, we've cut down to a depth of 10 feet. We're actually ready for compaction to start our compacting and setting the footings. And we've had reviews and a report provided by Cures, our environmental contractor, and we're on clean ground so far. So really excited about that too. The temporary job site fence went up. Obviously, the property is secured right now by the contractor, and down the road here, we're looking at perhaps providing some alternative security around the clock if that's necessary, particularly when we see walls going up because of the theft of copper and related semi-precious metals. The mobilized earthwork equipment and crew have established on the entrance. They've started the rough grade. As I mentioned, we're down to 10 foot in some areas. We plan to start the building pad over the excavation around the 23rd of February, and screening should be on site the 24th to start the processing. And our screening shouldn't be as bad as we thought earlier because we've not encountered as much environmental issues, or environmental hazards, if you will.
No little prairie dog burrow things?
No, those were all relocated professionally early on.
Prairie dogs.
Yeah, and well, yeah, I mean, there's some remnants, but primarily we haven't found any particulates more than 3 to 4 inches in diameter.
May I just interject and say, Chair Siegel, that we were informed by Robert Martinez, our Hill International project manager, that once that site work was done, once they started moving that dirt, there are no prairie holes left anymore or any place for burrowing owls or any other kind of critter to get in. And when they do the compaction, forget it.
So that stabilizes the ground.
Yes.
Yes, and compaction is required prior to the footings, so they'll be compacting as we speak, this week and next. And finally, last but not least, there will be a scheduled meeting early in February. I believe it's February 4th, and we will discuss and ask the board's approval of the guaranteed maximum price. The guaranteed maximum price is the price that the contractor manager at risk will use to complete the project. And I will remind you all that once we decide on that guaranteed maximum price, there are liquidatable damages associated with that contract. So every day past the due date, they can exceed $2,500 a day. And that's all.
I have a question.
Please.
How often do you go out to the site? And the reason I'm asking that is that, you know, if we know when you're going, maybe, you know, you can give me a hard hat that fits
You bet.
and go out to the site.
You bet, Chairman and Member Abeta. Absolutely, any of you are all welcome to come out to the site. We can actually schedule a tour, if you will. Right now, it's just a bunch of dirt, but give us about 30, 45 days, and we'll actually start erecting footings and walls. But yeah, anytime, there's the contractor will provide us hard hats and safety glasses on site. And I try and make it out there at least 3-4 times a week. We have a owner's rep who's out there more frequently, and the project manager here at Santa Fe Community College who's out there on a regular basis as well. So we try and unannounced, we try and make frequent visits as well.
Okay, any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
Very thorough. Okay, board reports. Nothing? I think then, no closed session. I think we're done. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Um,
Okay.
Before the next meeting starts, we're going to take a short break.